This is Stu Palfrey. Lives on Glanford Avenue. I was thinking, the guy that I'm a late night show host, or a listener, I guess, talking way back to David Letterman, of course, who's more or less the new one, Johnny Carson, Dick Cavett, and the list goes on. If you have that memory, you can maybe go all the way back. And they had some really, really interesting live programs. There was no script. It came from here, and this is basically what we're going to try and do. So I approached Stu, and he looked at me like, "You gotta be kidding." I said, "I'm going to interview you." I can't talk. Yeah, you can. We've been talking for 2 hours, and you've out-talked me, and that's something, really. And so we spent the last 2 or 3 days at his place going through the house, and this house has got all kinds of memorabilia. So I said, "I like that, and I like that." "What do you want that for?" "Well, that's part of your story." "Oh, okay. This picture frame piece here on the front, I asked him the first day, "Could I get that?" It's bolted to the wall in the staircase. And he goes, No, that's too hard to get down. But the second day, he goes, "Maybe we can get it down." Because he probably walked by it that night and go, "There's so much history in this picture." And when you get a chance after we're finished, have a look at it. And a lot of the pictures will answer your questions quite quickly. So from there, I decided to figure out, where does Stu Palfrey live? Glanford Avenue.
Right.
Right? How long have you lived there?
84 years.
84 years. In the same place, not the same house. He built a house down on the corner. He bought some property from his dad. His dad was a farmer. How many farms are on Glanford Avenue?
7.
7 farms. Now, if you look down at the bottom of that picture, there's milk bottles. How many remember those kind of milk bottles? Most of all, kids today don't know what you're talking about. It comes in a little square box, doesn't it? Doesn't the milk come from Safeway, or doesn't it come from the Royal Oak Shopping Centre? No, it comes from a cow. Did you not know that? My mother, who was involved very much with the Sanderson Fair, she introduced pigs, baby pigs. And she said, "Kids don't know what baby pigs look like." And so she introduced them to the fair in the old fairgrounds. And she said it was crazy. Kids were inside of the pen. There's like 15 to 20 pigs there. And kids are carrying them around and come to the fair. We know what a pig looks like now. Before that, they had no clue. So we talked about stuff like that with Stu. His dad was a farmer. I asked Stu about, how do you separate the milk? You put it in a separator.
Yeah.
So he explained this to me. I said, "Can we take that to the program?" He goes, "Oh, it's so big, but we can take something smaller." So he said, "Take the milk bottles." Up here, if you see that car, that's from a farm that he totally rebuilt. And this is it's Edgewood Farm. There's the paperwork. So he said, "How about the bottles?" Well, he had all kinds of them. His wife had bottles everywhere, set up like that with different caps. So he said, "Here's a cap you might like to look at." You come out after and look at it. It says Cunningham's Dairy, Ganges, BC. I laughed and I said, "Oh, well, we had a place on Salt Spring. We had a guy by the name of Cunningham do the electrical for our cabinet." So it was a family thing. It stayed there. And this is, again, that was shocking to me. Well, I didn't know we had a farm. How many people remember the farms going up and down the Pathway Highway here, down Glanford or the West End? Everybody does. Fond memories if you had a job there. And as I said with a fellow by the name of Steve Butler, you've heard of the Butler family. Well, I had worked with him on and off. And he said, "I'll hire any kid that's come from a farm. I don't care what he's done before, as long as he's on the farm, I'll hire him to do the job." And that's what he would often do. Now, let's go to Stu's picture here. Not too close, probably. Come up and have a look at this one. This is quite an amazing. This is Fargo. And we've heard of the word Fargo probably before. I've never seen a truck or a van like that in my entire life. They're just impossible to find. That's one of many of Stu's programs, totally rebuilt. It showed it all over the country at a car show. And how many trophies did you win with that car?
36.
36 trophies. Not bad. From some kid out in Glanford that's a farmer's son. You know, he apprenticed at Jack Lacey in Victoria, Jack Lacey Auto Body. Does anybody remember that? Some of you do? And Jack was a crazy guy, wasn't he?
He was a good guy.
Absolutely.
One of the better bosses.
One of the best bosses. And if you worked in a body shop, I don't know what it's like today. It's zoo time. I was with John Thompson one day going down Douglas Street, and I see this guy's running up the street, and I go, "Oh, it's Stu." And he comes, "Let me in, let me in." And we were going like, Why? Let me in." Oh, we would let him in. So he ran in front of the bay and up the street. Right behind him was about 10 guys. What's going on? Anyways, 2 minutes later, Stu comes back on a pole. He's tied to the pole with drag. It's his birthday. So when you have a birthday in body shop history, well, we can't tell all the stories, can we?
No.
No. And what they did was Stu, and he's yelling, I'm going to get you for this. I said, what am I going to do with 10 other guys? You leave him alone. Okay, we left him alone. We followed him back to the body shop, and they dumped him in the rad tank. It's a test tank. They dumped him in there and brought him out. Everybody took a hose and hosed him down. That was his birthday present. So, you know, those are the things that happen, and they happen rather quickly. Now, I want to show this picture. Is this going to work, Paul, if I come across? That's that car there that Stu built. It was an unbelievable car. It changed everything in it. And that's what he actually met him when he was working on that car. He did lots of work on mine, too. But this is a photograph of the color was so shiny. The photo guy said, I've never seen a red like that. Is that what he
No.
said? Who was the photo guy? Do you remember?
Pardon?
Who was the guy that took the picture?
That picture?
Yeah,
The guy from DuPont Paint?
DuPont. That's pretty famous, isn't it? So he probably put it in the magazine that they had, maybe.
They put it in theirs, yeah.
Yeah. So again, you say, like, how did these guys possibly do a paint job that lived on a farm on Blanford Avenue? Didn't do it at the farm, but he did do lots of body work at the farm when he was younger. And if you look down, look at these go-karts, kiddie cars. He's had probably 20 over the years.
40.
40. He sold a lot off. More room for them. But he gets these things all rusted and there's nothing left of them. And then he turns them into a small child's car. And they're used mostly for display. There's the Fargo sedan there. That's the one we showed you in the beginning. Now, as I said, Stu, he's had his ups and downs. He married this lovely lady, raised 4 children, and it's kind of a sad story. I don't know how I'm going to tell this. He lost his wife and he lost his son. Sorry. But I talked with Stu's son probably, for 2 weeks, I guess, at night when he was at home and he was dying of cancer. And because he was a comic, he was a stand-up comedian, and that's my bag too. So we would yap on the phone for half an hour. But Stu's life was not that easy. He met this young lady out at the go-kart track, Nikki. Does anybody remember the go-kart track at Island View?
Oh my goodness.
That's the wedding. Now, beautiful bride and groom, the big thing there is the cake. Somebody doesn't know this about Mrs. Palfrey. That's what she did. She did wedding cakes. She built every wedding cake for every bride on Blanford. And then she ended up working at the Gavin's Bakery on Quadra Street. That was the last cake she did, Sue.
Right.
And I said, children, here they are. They're the girls and Steve Jr. This has been tough on Mr. Palfrey. He's had a tough go. And I have to defend him all the time because every Sunday he takes flowers to his wife's grave. He's done that for how many years?
10.
10 years. Every Sunday, without fail. And some people go, well, what's wrong with him? Why doesn't he just give up? And he said, you don't understand the relationship we had. I'll go there until the day I die, taking her flowers. And she was a great, great person. She'd have to be to have put up with him too, by the way, she could realize. Sorry, guys. Now, I said this to him the other day. I took a whole lot of these pictures from his house and had them blown up. When I put this one, when the lady who was doing it at the store, she said, who's that? Oh, that's Sue Palfrey, Nikki. Wow. I said, would you let your daughter go out with a guy like that? Take a look at him. And I think Barb said, my dad would let me go out with Stu, that's for sure. But it's a great picture. But see what you can do if you blow up a picture. You can blow it up quite easily. And how many photographs have ever got under the bed? They go, well, I haven't looked at them in a long time. Just spend $30, $40 and have a dozen or so blown up. And at least it'll bring back some kind of memory. At least you hope it will. It's okay. This one here is Stu and Stu Jr. What year was this, Stu?
Pardon?
What year was that?
What year?
Yeah, how long ago was that taken?
Oh, man, I don't know. I was young there.
How young were you?
Yeah.
Now,
That's when Sharon graduated, so that's a few years back.
these two, Sharon and Mom, were almost carbon copies. Is she down in Washington State still?
Sharon is, yeah,
she's
Portland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is she with, who's she working with?
Oh, she's not working. She quit. She was working for Microsoft down there.
Microsoft. She went, they kind of dragged her out of work, her other
Yeah.
position and took her there, right? Now, we were looking at this earlier today, and I said to him, who the heck was this guy? He goes, I have no idea. My son, that's senior here. See, the foreheads are similar? I mean, now, are they close?
Who is that? Well, I don't know who that
We
is.
don't know who it is. But when I said the heads are similar, Stu Jr.'s head appearance is similar to his dad's. He's kind of bald. Kind of. It's not a big deal. We inherit all these bad things from our parents and so on. But that stuff seems to work out. That's the end of the pictures. When you look at this guy, I dragged this out of this house this morning. One of the neat things about the Palfrey house, anybody that would go there, especially he was saying the other day, any of the kids' friends, he'd bring them all in, sit them down, and introduce everybody. Every time he goes out, somebody says, "Oh, hello, Mr. Palfrey." He said, "Who are you?" "What did you tell me this morning?" I complimented him on his steps going into this house. Tell me what happened with the texture on the steps.
Where?
In front of your house. Remember I said, who did your steps? Remember they're all...
Oh, one of the Lena boys.
Yeah, where did
And-
you meet him
and-
from?
Well, I met him years ago, and then his helper, he come up there and he said, "Oh, how you doing, Stu?" And I didn't have a clue who he was, but he was a kid I taught baseball for 13, 14, 15 years old. He was our pitcher. But I hadn't seen him in years, and
Yeah.
he was like 45 years old.
Yeah, and this happens to a lot, maybe not everybody talks about it, but situations happen in life that repeat themselves. Again, I refer back to this group here, and the group of people that don't come out to one of these things. All of their stories are gone, they pass away and they're just history, nobody knows anything about them. We've done a lot of reports and recordings for a lot of people. There's still lots of people out there that could benefit from hearing from their parents. Who did they go out with? Where did they live? How long did they live there? And so on. So when I saw this on the wall, I said, who the hell is that? Well, how did this happen? How did you get to Las Vegas to do that?
Well, the wife told me we were going to Las Vegas to meet my youngest daughter,
Yeah.
and then we got to Las Vegas for 4 days, and she said we're going to go out to the racetrack and see what the racetrack looks like, and she had booked me 35 laps to drive on the racetrack, and they took me down there.
So I passed this around. I looked at it the other day, I went, who's that? That's me. Well, you're right, it is. He said, that's sure nice. 132 miles an hour.
It's
Yeah.
on there.
But, Harv and I have talked about situations, and Dawn and Nori have talked about all kinds of crazy stuff. We're all gone to school together. And because we were wild and crazy kids around Elk Lake and Royal Oak, what crazy things have you done? And then Mr. Palfrey always comes up with, Harvey said on the phone the other day, well, I did something once when I was a firefighter. I backed into a police car. How did you do that? Well, I didn't see him. It says on the back of the fire truck, please stay back 150 feet. Police officer pulled right up behind me. I did. I put a reverse and backed right into him. So I said to him, oh, that's funny. I'm going to ask Stewie what it was like going to Western Speedway in a car.
You don't want to hear about it.
Well, we do. We do. Because every time I get a chance, hey, come on, tell them this story just to make it fun. Tell them what happened to you going to a race at Western Speedway on the old road. You know, a long way to get there. What happened?
Well, when he went over the old overpass, I didn't realize there was a Mountie behind me. And I turned on the Millstream Road, and there used to be a shortcut. There was a rock in the middle of the road halfway down. Well, I stayed on the left lane and went down there, and he was still behind me. And we got him to the racetrack, and there used to be a dip where Andy Cotton's house was. And I stopped there because my buddy said I missed a parking spot, and I backed up, and I backed into the police car and that was it, so.
Any particular car you like to work on, any like a Jeff Ford or?
Okay, if you didn't hear the question, what car does he prefer to work on? Chevrolet, Ford, Volkswagen, doesn't matter, which one, does it matter?
49 to 51 Fords.
Oh,
Yeah, and that's what you're talking here.
Yeah.
There's so much emotion with this, there really is. I mean, it's just a car to a lot of people, but, you know, what goes into this?
Yeah.
You realize that working till 2 or 3 in the morning, I get accused with, oh, you never stop. I go, why not, I gotta get finished.
Well, we got that, tried to get that insured, and they tried to register it, and they went through, and they say it's the only one, because they never made them in the States. And there's one in Victoria, but it's got a longer roof. So they got that insured as the only one they could find on any registry, so.
And you still have that?
The car, yeah. It's in Sydney now, this one?
Yeah, it's in my son-in-law's place,
Yeah.
so.
That's one thing with the 60s, they all named their cars. A friend of ours had El Toro, and the Purple Onion, and then the Orange Crush. And it's so fun because you know,
You lock that in?
you lock that in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Stu's was called the Little Gotta Go.
Yeah.
that was the first one, that wasn't this one.
No, we've got a 28A sitting in the garage for the last 18 years.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah,
Jack.
we've had it for probably 40 years.
Yeah, good. Jack Mather is a member here. I talked to him yesterday, and he had a little golden jug. It was a 1944. Now he's got another 40. Sorry. But yeah, Jack is on, here Jack is a week younger, he's a week older than me, and he's in Vancouver now at another car show out at the Trade X Center. Now he's an amazing guy too, Jack. Remember that he's got a little tea bucket. He mocked it up and he's not mechanically inclined. He's an accountant, not knocking accountants, but you know, you don't expect accountants to build cars. And so Jack mocked this thing up just by looking and reading. He got lots of help later with just 2x4s. He called me over and they look, what do you think? Oh, that's really cool. It's all 2x4s all screwed together. That's going to be my new car. And now he's showing it right now as we speak this weekend in Vancouver at the Traders. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful car. Now he's complaining about the cost of storing them. You know, he's got 2 cars, he doesn't use that much. Anyhow. More questions, please, there's got to be lots. Doug, question. Come on, ask a motorcycle question. Ask Stu if he fixes motorcycles.
don't know motorbikes.
No, I know, but have you ever straightened them out? Yes.
You mentioned Jack Lacey in your,
Yes, it was his boss, yes.
do you know who had the body shop in his?
Where's that?
Jack Lacey?
Jack Lacey's?
Yeah,
Do you know who had the body shop in his place?
Who replaced
Who
it?
had a body shop?
now?
No, years ago.
Years before Lacey,
No,
or after Jack. Superior, I
Well-
think that's
Jack Lacey had it, and it was a body shop.
Afterwards.
Yeah, but there was about 3 in there.
Body shop,
Hey?
Mornell's body shop.
No, he was across the road.
Morris and him apprenticed together, so they know.
You knew Morris?
Me and Mo, yeah, and his brother Paul. Paul was
Oh,
there,
really?
and Mo and I started our apprenticeship 6 months apart.
Morris married one of my sisters.
Who did?
Morris did.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
See?
Did that?
Yeah, she lived over by the hospital, or you lived over by the hospital.
No, they were up in Nanaimo, and she passed away 2 years ago. Morris
Did she?
was south now.
Yeah,
Yeah, he mentions
Wow.
it all the time.
yeah, no, we spent a lot of time together. But Mo had a shop right across the road from Lacey.
Right, yeah,
Yeah, him and Phil.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Good.
That's cool. Great question. Come on, you guys, more questions.
Was there ever a train running near your farm?
Okay,
A train running near your farm.
down the road from it. It wasn't running when I was there, but the trestle was still there. It split our property where Fun City was and where the gas station is. Then it went out and went up through Mon's Orchard and went down Pipeline Road that way.
Beg pardon? You? Big B&S, yes. Yeah, that,
Yeah, there was 2 of them. One went out through the interurban and one went down through Glanford.
there's actually 3.
Yeah.
There were 3 railways. On the peninsula, 3 railways.
Well, yeah, there was one that went down the highway.
Well, first one was on Lochside and Cordova Bay, Canadian National Railway.
Yeah, one went out to Logana Farms to pick up all the wine
B&S.
for the winery, yeah,
B&S,
yeah.
probably don't remember, but one of these meetings, I brought a map that my father's dad had used to buy his property at Elk Lake. And it was a fold-out map, and it was in perfect condition. It showed all the railways, it showed the observatory, it showed everything that names that had been changed. And I said to Darrell at the time, what do you think? And he goes, well, I said, I don't want to keep folding it up, it's kind of crazy, it's not going to, he said, well, let's give it to the archives. So we did that. So they sent me a copy of what they did, but it is at the archives. If you put, it's a bit difficult getting into that archive. You've got to spend quite a few days making sure you get the right answers.
Yeah,
But
the one that went through my dad's property, it went along the highway because the highway was never there. You could only go into town through Quadra Street or down Glanford. There was no road between
No.
Quadra Street and Mackenzie. That was just a mud trail in there till the mid-50s they put it in. So,
The railway Stewie's referring to, the VNS, I have photographs of it going down on Rogers Avenue, just prior to you coming down, coming out along, it crisscrosses, yeah, it does crisscross.
yeah, it went, and one went under where the Saanich Fire Hall used to be.
Yeah,
There was a train track across the road from there,
Yeah.
under the tunnel there.
Marine Way,
Yeah.
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 Yeah, Ravine.
Hey.
VNS used to be called the Thornwood Express.
Exactly,
And it quit before the war.
right,
Because they put a roller rink just south of the.
On the other side of-
Pumping station.
Yes.
At the west side of Elk Lake.
yeah. That roller rink, as kids, Molly Kiddo would be babysitting us. We were probably 12, 14, 15, something. She'd row us across the lake a lot of times, and at that time the rink had split up and just given away. But I talked to people that had skated on that thing with big loud music in the summertime, powering over the lake. I'm sorry?
You can hear the music up on the roof.
Exactly, that's what this lady told me. She lived just on the other side of the observatory. I asked me, where are you from? Where did you do this? And she's giving me all these, I used to go skating on that roller rink. Wow, what did you do? Well, Guy was her husband. He had something to do with Webb and Trace. I was so popular, I had 3 or 4 guys all trying to take me out at the same time. So I could make my choice, she said. And
Yeah.
where did you want to go? I want to go to Redford. So that story got going. Okay, more questions for Stuart? There's tons. Yes, sir.
Well, we did a program here on the 3 railroads,
I remember that, yes.
and it's in the Telling Stories After School that Darrell
Yeah.
recorded. So
Yes.
It's on the
So it's
blog.
still there. Very good. Yeah. Brian's gone now, of course. You know that Brian Polson's passed. And then I'm not sure how Ronnie's doing. Last time I talked to him, he's having mobility problems. So, that's again why this is so important. You got to get your stories like Mr. Palfrey's doing here. You don't want to do this. He said, you're crazy. I don't talk. I go, yeah, you talk all the time. And he's still talking. He can't hear maybe as well as he used to, but we got to get the questions to him. So please ask more questions, because Paul's got the film working. Peter, you have a question?
Gary, that roller rink, the concrete is still there.
Yes.
If you go on the trail at the backside of the lake.
Right?
You walk across that concrete.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's a lot of memories for everybody for there. Peter has a question. Peter,
Not a question, it's a comment.
comment?
You rebuilt the 59 Pontiac convertible for my son Brian.
You did, for Stuart did that part for you.
My son Brian bought this 59 Pontiac
Yeah.
pieces.
Yeah.
You put it over here.
Stewie, you remember that? You remember working on Peter's son's car?
Yeah,
Pontiac?
the
Yeah.
red one.
Yeah. What color did you paint it? Was it red?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
this is the father.
Yeah,
In case you don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
You know that,
I have a 59 Pontiac I bought brand new.
right?
It's still in the garage. They were freezing it.
Yeah, Parisian, yeah. The secret question you said, and that's the key, it's in the garage. Well, you gotta put it inside, and a concrete foundation underneath it, because if you don't, all the moisture just goes sucked right up into the car.
It's still cold.
Yeah. Harvey, tell them the story about your 54 that you bought from the guy that worked for Ferry Corporation. Hey guys, Harvey has an interesting story about a car he bought from a guy. That blew my mind, but
Oh, it was a 50 Meteor,
50 Meteor, yeah,
and I wanted to get it customized.
yeah,
So I took it to Stu, who got a 50 Ford. The overdrive didn't work, so the deal was, he'd work on my car if I fixed his overdrive. So he says, go to Corey Fish's, pick up 60 pounds of body lead,
yeah. And
my car with him on Friday, and when I picked it up on Monday, I didn't recognize it.
That's,
You know, the fancy stuff, the rounded hood corners.
yeah, yeah.
French headlights.
Yeah,
And
that's his trademark, he does that all the time. He does it in his sleep.
I told that story, somebody said, where would he use 60 pounds of body leather?
No problem, no problem, right? I think he put that much in my trunk. He could hardly pick it up, it was so heavy. So tell him the story about the car you bought, that green one, you got a light green one. You bought it from a guy on Quadra Street across from Jimmy,
On the last one.
yes, tell him about that.
Well, I knew that this car existed,
Yeah. What was it?
51 Ford two-door.
Two-door, yeah?
Nori had told me about the car a year earlier,
Right.
so when we went, Nori and I went and looked at it, I decided to buy it, and I sold the 51 Ford Club Coupe that I had, bought the 51 two-door, and found out that it had been painted 40 years earlier. It looked like it had been painted the previous week by a guy named Cunningham.
That was, I looked at the car, I'm over there, he come have a look at this. I go, the guy on Quadra Street, you get that? Yeah. Do you know about it? Yeah, I know all about it.
Yeah.
It was a horror show.
Yeah.
Does anybody know Jim Gallagher?
Oh, yeah.
He is a terror. I'm trying to get him to come here, and he won't answer his phone if he sees me phoning. I did a lot of work for him over the years, and he had this station, Gibson's old place, was a VA one time, and then became all kinds of other things. He says to me, hey, I've got a guy, my neighbor right up there, he's so fussy. His wife takes it out, brings it home, he washes the car every day, takes it out, and puts cover on it, puts it back in the garage. I told him that you could paint it so good, it would look like polished lacquer, you'd never tell the difference. And I said, what? You just can't do that in alkyd enamels. Alkyd enamels, well, it's paint, but it's not that. So I told him you could do that. So take it. So we took everything out, took it all apart. It turned out really well. I painted it, took it back, and Jim phones me, oh, he paid for it because I put a motor, he paid for it. He didn't think it was quite as shiny as I told him it would be. So I go, what am I supposed to do? He sat me up and then chopped my legs off. But he always thought, and so then Harvey buys it.
Yeah.
So he says to me, what do you think of this? I go, I know all about that car. It was a long time ago that I did it. But when you talk about time, and again, back to this club, Steve Butler, I worked on his cars. He phoned me last week and he goes, you know, you and that guy out in Chosen or Souk or something, you did my car a couple of years, well, maybe 20 years ago. No, longer than that. Oh, no. And if you know Steve Butler, to give up arguing with the guy, because he yell and scream until he out-argues you. I said, no, we didn't. Anyway, he said, well, he left a little dent, I could just see a little dent on the side of it. I said, yeah, but it's over 20 years ago. It don't matter, how come you missed it? I would never miss it. But that's exactly what he's like. So I said, Steve, no, it's been a long time he did that. I said, wait a minute. That was Lloyd Strompkins, who since had a bit of a heart issue. I phoned him and they said, I know you keep impeccable records. How long ago did we paint that thing? Do the body? Oh, God, I don't know. Did you still got all your, oh yeah, I got all my stuff. Well, I'll phone you tomorrow. I got them all dated. And he gets little books like this. Every day he writes July the 16th, 6:45, work there, goes for lunch, goes for coffee, writes down everything he's done. Every day. It's just crazy. It's like it's a ledger. So he phoned me back in a couple of days. He goes, well, I did that job with you. Let's see. Okay. I've been at this location now for 38 years. I did it about 3 years before I moved to this location. So you're in what, 41 going on? Yeah, 41 going on 42. And he's complaining that you made this little because he lost his one eye because he plays hockey, old-timers hockey, and the puck him hitting that. Now he's got all the other issues, and he's dealing with it. He still works like Stewart. He works all the time. So he gave me all the stuff. So I met Butler phoned me the next morning. So I'll take you for breakfast. Okay. So I got my tour book ready to go. I stayed up to about 2 in the morning writing all the things that upset me about what he had said about Lloyd doing all this work. And it's pretty precise when I got it finished. I get in the car. It's a beautiful day. It's a black 56 Ford two-door hardtop. It was used in movie sets from California. It was sold to a lady from automotive sales who sold it to him. I said, you had this car 67 years. And we put those quarter panels on, they were in two pieces. They were like this. Not that I'm trying to, sir, will they start laughing? The quarter panels, instead of being one quarter panel, they're two. The butt jointed like this, in the middle of the wheel well. That's
Yeah.
the only way you could buy it. Easy to put on?
Yeah, no,
No, they're
No,
horrible,
no,
right?
yeah.
It's horrible. But if you weld it, it twists the metal and shrinks and goes, it's horrible. So you gotta work and bang it out and fill it and prime it. It just goes on and on. He drives up and this thing picked me up. It's immaculate, black, beautiful. New dash, you just put a new dash in it. So I said, is this the car that we did 20 years ago? Yeah, about 20 years ago. I said, well, it's 43 years ago. And why are you complaining? He's gonna come out and give you a boot, you know where. He was so upset when I phoned and said that you were upset about it wasn't the quality he thought. It looks like I can't tell you how, but it looks like that, any of those cars. And so we went on and went for breakfast, and I settled down, and it was fine. But you have to keep track of the time. 40 years is nothing, 10 is nothing. You know, 10 years ago, what were we doing 10 years ago? Lots of stuff we can't do today. How about get up off the floor comfortably? No, you can't even do that. Okay, I'll shut up. Give him a question, because he's got lots of answers. Somebody, come on. You got a question about Lacey's? Jack Lacey? No? He was a super guy, that guy.
best guy.
He was the best guy, right?
Best guy you'd ever worked for, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He really was. And he could tell you stories that would make your hair turn upside down, wouldn't it? Yeah. He really can. Barb, time. Are we running out of time? You can see what happens here. This would be to be continued, right?
Yeah.
There's more things to talk about, and when you watch what's been done here, you'll go, oh, why didn't they talk about this? Well, we'll analyze that and we'll add that to the slate so we can bring him back because he's going to join because I told him he had to, and just meet and talk and do what we're doing. How does this format seem to some of you? Does it seem logical or not logical? I mean, it can be perfected. I know it's kind of amateurish, but you get the drift of it all, kind of? You feel comfortable with it? No? Yeah? Yeah? But as I say, anybody can do this. Like if you have a neighbor that's the best boat builder you've ever heard of, and you talk to him over the fence all the time, this is what we're doing. We're just talking over the fence. We're not writing a script. I just did headlines with pictures, and then I just pick it up from there. It's the same way I do a bus tour. So if I'm driving the bus and you're on a tourist, you have to listen to what I have to tell you about that. And before we shut down, I just got to do this quick story. When I was doing the buses, I did farm tours with the old British buses, and because my parents knew all the farmers out in the Sandwich Peninsula, I knew them as well. So the company owner said to me, we're doing a bus tour tomorrow, you don't talk, you just drive. That makes sense. Okay, sure. Off we go on a Sunday, and I meet all these people downtown, about 60 people on the bus. A lady's doing the tour. She's from the University of Victoria. So I don't know what she did there, but she was running the tour. She had a folder like this under her arm. Okay, I said, have you done the tour in a car? Yeah, my girlfriend and I, we've done this about 4 times. I said, what's the tour? She goes, well, it's all here, right here. You've written that all out like that? Yeah, word for word. Jack ran here, jumped over here. I said, you can't do that. Oh, yes, it works fine. You don't have enough material. You need books and books to do that. You headline the story. You might want to put the Royal Oak Hill in the wintertime, in the spring, and in the fall. Then you fill that in as you talk, normally. Don't go reading it out of a book. It doesn't work. We're driving out the Palfrey Highway, heading over to Phil's farm on Oldfield Road. The boss of the tour comes up to my little window, and he yells at me, she's out of material. We haven't got to the farm yet. We did Chinatown, we did all that, going by the Black Swan. And I said, what's wrong? Dave, what's wrong? She's out of material. She's crying, mascara all down her face. She doesn't know what to do. Oh, God. I said, okay, fine. So we sail by the weigh scale, by Elk Lake, familiar home to me, turn by my parents' service station, go up Hampshire Road, pull over off to the side, have to get all my gear out to talk. So I said, well, this is kind of ironic. I'm going to explain to you where we are, what we're doing, where my parents were. We lived at Elk Lake, Campbell's here, you know, all the people that you all know as neighbors. And we're driving all the way to Phil's farm. Get to Oldfield, up Oldfield into Phil. He's, come on. His dad used to own Birdie Fish, so I knew him forever. And we get parked in the back, and Phil says, come on, you guys. And they're all walking away, and there's a couple kind of staying with me. And I'm going, you guys, aren't you going to get in the tour? No, we have to ask a question. I'll go, yeah, sure. Is your son in real estate? Oh, Ron, yeah, he's been there for about 15 years, I guess, at that time. So she punches her husband like this. I told you who it was. How about some of these little toy series, he calls them. Again, I'd like you to come and look at some of these and just figure out, how did he do this? How bad was this one, Stu, when you found it?
A rust bucket.
A rust bucket. Because like, it's so thin and metal. So we have to really totally recreate that thing again. As he said, how many do you have? 40 you've done?
Had about 40
Yeah.
at one time,
How much time did you put into one, approximately?
3 or 4 months.
He mentioned a car. Everybody that has cars, you've got to get really good friends, and you have to say, look, you have to come and help us. So I had bought my first car, which was a 1950 Ford, two-door. I bought it from Empress Motors when they were on View Street. And so, you know, I had worked at my dad's service station, so I thought, oh, Suey, what are we going to do with this thing? So he came around, oh, we've got to run on the corners on the hood. You have to do that, we got to do the trunk. No, I'm not doing the trunk, that's your problem, you have to fix that trunk. Because on the 50 Ford, there's a license plate frame, and it belonged in the trunk. So to fix it, you've got to cut it and get it all done. You welded it all up, blended it in, and started with. It's your turn to finish. I'm not doing all that work. Okay, so I spent the next 3 months perfecting the trunk. So then, we get it painted, we build on it, and then I painted it 3 times. First in the service station, and then it's Bill, what's the name of Douglas? We used to spray glue. Bill Fernie, remember Bill Fernie? And then we got it all colored up. We painted it lime gold. Now, quite a process. We put about 11 gallons of paint on it. It was a gold base, and then we painted lime green color on top. So when you looked at it, you didn't know what you're looking at. It was gold in the sun, it was this color. And Bill said, okay, well, let's start polishing it. So we have it in my dad's shop, and Bill Donovan was another bodyman. He was a really good painter too. And he said, well, I don't like cleaning this pad in buckets of water. I said, well, how do you want to clean it? In those days, we just had one pad, you tie it on, and it would shake like hell, and you try to get it. Well, everybody was down trying to figure out how this was going to work. So Bill said, I want white gas. I said, okay. So in those days, everybody had white gas in 45-gallon drums. My dad had that in the old log cabin. So we go get a couple of gallons of that, take a pan, fill it up, and clean it instantly. But that's what he wanted. So he buffed the car a bit more and then cleaned it again, on and on and on. So he didn't like it because the spray was going everywhere. Yeah, I don't like that. So he goes down into the pit. Big mistake. We didn't know that. He puts it like this, fires the buffer up, the white gas hits the side of the pit, comes back on the armature. Woof. Oh yeah, it was a fire trap. He was burnt up to his elbows, hair, face, and he's standing, help me. What do you want? Get some oil. Pour oil on me. So I still see myself doing that. Dad had the drums of oil with a crank like this, golden shell. So I poured 3 or 4 quarts over it. Then we phoned the Santa police and we had an ambulance. So they arrived in a two-paper lark. Remember the larks? So in Sandy? That's a long time ago. So we're driving into town and the police, I can't remember which one it was. He said, hold his arms, he's going into shock. So I held his arms in the back seat. I just held him up like this because he was just moving. So the neat thing about all of this, the next day he came out. It was not a scar, nothing. And I'm thinking, how did that happen? Like, we put oil on you, nurses would say, we have to get all that oil off the guy. He's burnt, and they're going to get the oil off. Bill said, well, I don't know what it was, Bill. He did not have a scar. Anyway, 2 days later, went to Bremerton to another car show. So the car did well. It beat everything in the country for paint jobs. I guess we got into the Autorama to Jazz in the Curly Ring. Remember the Autorama to Jazz? Stu remembers, because he's old, right? We were on Autorama to Jazz in the Curly Ring.
Your car?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we were the last guy to get in there. We were up. We were done. We were up to about 2 days, I think, 3 days, no sleep. We just get it in, and finally get it in, and we're just like zombie. So that was it. We got to set up and go home. So the big thing in Victoria back in the early 60s was the wooden paint program. We had Bratton's out of painting, 2 brothers, a bunch of other shops at it, and these yokels from out there at Elflake and Santa Clara, and They were all trying to get the paint trophy too. So it looked really good. And there was Laurie Sharp was a featured guest. He had a car from Bremerton. He had a turnstile from Morrison's, and he was going around like this. So when the judging was finished and the awards night came around, hey, guess what? We won the paint trophy. See, that was a big deal. And Laurie came up to me at the end of the show and he said, you know what? You're going to be pretty happy about this. And I go, what do you mean? He said, where the heck did you paint all this stuff? The body shop in town, my dad's service station. I can't believe it. And my car was the featured car in the Los Angeles Roadster Show last 6 months ago. The featured car. Oh yeah. I won 36 paint trophies. I never lost. Well, when that thing drove in, you were shamming down. And I said to the guy with me, he goes, see that? Look at that. We're not winning the paint trophy. That's what he told me at the awards night. He said, never in my life have I seen a car. Looked like it was all deep, huh? It was just crazy. But Bob Clark said the only different thing about it, we had buried a mosquito in the right-hand side of the right door. We put so much paint on it. Bob found it was like going around checking just to find out what was. It was a different paint job, it really was. But so we all had our waving our flags, and but it's all hard work. This guy here blows me away what he does. You know, and he's still doing it. Can you believe this? How old are you now? 70? Yeah, he's a bit older. Well, he's your age, isn't he, Ari? 64 or something? Yeah, 64.
64, I'll go along with that, yeah.
But he works in this shop until noon, pretty much every day. He complains the odd time, but he said, and I agree with him. You know, if you don't move it, you lose it, and he just keeps doing this thing. Barb just comes to me. She says, "You won't believe what that guy's doing today." I go, "Yeah, he will. He could be doing anything." Another question, please.
Question here.
Yep.
Where did your dad farm? Did he farm down in the Gladford area?
Glanford Avenue. Where did your dad farm?
On
Or East Master?
40, 40 to 20 Glanford, right,
I know Gladford because I lived on that avenue, but did he go back?
5 acres.
well, our farm was on, our house was on 4220, right where Anderson Cervena's office is.
Yeah.
And then I was born and raised there, and then this church here bought an acre off my dad, off that 5 acres, and I lived there. I built a house there before we got married, and I got married on the same 5 acres. Then we had another piece where the Playland Curling Club was. That was part of our farm.
Oh, that was part of it.
And where Fun City was,
Yeah.
that was the other part of our farm.
What did you run on your farm?
Pardon me?
What did you run on,
What did
Sue?
you run on your farm? Dairy.
Cattle, dairy cattle.
Okay.
There was 7 dairy farms on Glanford.
Well, there was one right across the road too, wasn't there?
From the Ferry sisters.
There was a what?
Ferry sisters.
On that avenue, was there another farm there on that avenue?
No, the closest one to Man Avenue was Horselands, just below the pub.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just where the Tubmans were.
There was one there. There was one on the corner of an Almond. There was our farm. There was one where the Red Barn Market is. This guy's farm was right where the post office is. And Yule's had a farm.
Well, did Rizzit's have, on the bell?
Yeah, well, when I was growing up, there was only 20 houses on Glanford,
Yeah.
and 7 of them were dairy farms.
Amazing, isn't it?
Well, I picked up a hitchhiker one morning, and that's how we found out where Island View Beach was. The guy said he was going to a go-kart track, and we stopped at the coffee shop on the highway,
Black Swan?
the Black Swan,
Yeah.
and then we went to Island View Beach, and I'd never been there before, and that's where I bought a go-kart and found a wife, and that's sort of, that's how that circle come in, but
Is that where Nikki's family was? Nikki's family had that?
Yeah.
they owned Island View Beach, they owned the go-kart track, yeah.
There was a little restaurant down there too, or a
Yeah, they did, yeah,
cafe or a street.
yeah. There was a restaurant and 3 little cabins on the water there, yeah.
How long did they own that, Stu, that property?
How long did your Nikki's parents own the Island View restaurant in that property?
I think they bought it about 55 and they sold it about 71, 72.
Did Dave Hancock buy that from you then?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, guy on his, did you hear the Hancock house?
Yeah.
Okay, Dave Hancock had down his wife had cougar,
Yeah, Dave Hancock, he bought it for $27,500, and when he sold it, he got $1 million for it.
I know.
You get raptors too.
Yeah, had everything. He was
Yeah,
he was a zoologist. His dad was Age the cleaner in the area.
Oh, really?
Yes, Fred Hancock, yeah. He was our basketball coach when I was a kid. We'd all pile in all the dirty clothes and off we go to the suit where we play basketball. Yeah. So speaking of that, I'm trying to take your thunder from this, but you know how you run into somebody and the story gets here and it expands people? Oh, now it makes sense. And you've been wondering about this story all your life. Bob Godfrey that works for Central San, he's in charge of sewers and lines and all that. I've known him for a long time. He was at where we live now, checking some stuff out, and I said, who was Bob Godfrey? Because the Godfrey people were farmers out on across the valley, right? So how are you related to Bob Godfrey? Oh, that's my uncle. But he died before I had met him. I didn't know him. I said he was a great guy. He used to take us to all our basketball things up the island. He used to, Dave Hancock and myself, Tommy Polson, Greenhalls, all kinds of stuff. We'd go up to the Nile to play basketball. And I said, well, I didn't know he did anything. I didn't go into sports. And I said, Bart, I said, we were very fortunate to be able to stay with Pete McPhail, who at that point was mayor of Nanaimo. And he had bunk beds up in his house, so he could take 10 of us. Plus, he had an ice cream factory. I was telling Bart this earlier. An ice cream factory in the backyard, a big one that supplied Nanaimo to most of this ice cream. So he said to us, have any of you guys heard about, have you seen a wolf? You mean, maybe a wolf? Like, yeah, I got one in the freezer. They killed it. They shot it somewhere, I don't know. So we go into this, like a sport of a wolf. We go into this freezer, trying to figure out what we're looking at, and here's this wolf laying on the ground. And forward, and I'm going, oh, you teeth, and the feet were huge, I couldn't believe it. One of his employees had snuck in the back and come charging through the door, screaming and yelling that he was, and we almost had a heart attack. And they thought it was funny. And then we got caught on that. But it was, Bob Godfrey took us everywhere, and his relations had no idea that he did that for all his son. Another question, please.
Do you still have this car, the red car?
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Oh, it does. You did.
Sorry.
Actually, that was our honeymoon car. Gary painted it before we went on our honeymoon. I bought that for $35, and that was my truck while I built the house. Then when we got married, Gary took it and he fixed it all up and painted it. And then after we had 3 kids, it was too small, so we parked it, and I finally done that to it. So.